I think today I'm going to sail out into the ocean. Far, far away from the world and all its troubles. Come on. Let's go together.
Tears of amber and gold. if you'd be so kind, would you mind introducing yourself for the podcast?
My name's Dan Burchmore, and I'm the bass player of Alunah.
And how would you describe the music that Alunah makes?
I'd probably describe it as psychedelic-inspired heavy rock.
And would it be fair that you have the label doom metal applied to your music quite often?
We do get we do get sort of put into that genre quite often, but I think it's such a broad spectrum these days. I mean, I think on one end of the spectrum, you can have real heavy, slow, and almost in some ways progressive. And at the other end, you've got the retro 70s Sabbath emulation. And I think we sort of sit more towards the 70s retro side of things.
Are you more comfortable referring to yourselves as a heavy psychedelic rock band?
Yeah, I think so. I think because the word doom metal, I think you can get compared to that. And I think it's all down to people's perceptions of what they expect doom metal to be. And I think sometimes we fall short of what some people would class as traditional doom metal. So yeah, I'd probably be more comfortable with that. Yeah.
Let's talk about the history of the band a little bit. When did Alunah form, and what did they set out to accomplish?
See, when they formed, it was back in 2006. There was an entirely different lineup. I wasn't actually even part of the band back then. It was the drummer Jake. He was one of the founder members, and he formed that with three other people in Birmingham. And basically, their influences were the sort of stoner, sludge, doom scene. Because back then, I mean, there wasn't much of a scene for it in England, and I know that they sort of came together through. They sort of met just by going to the same gigs and talking, and eventually coming up with the idea to have a jam. Because obviously, a couple of them were musicians already. I know the drummer Jake. He actually wanted to get into a band. So, yeah, it was just through like-minded people who liked the same type of music. Like I said, they saw a lot of each other because there wasn't really that big a scene in Birmingham at the time. So you'd end up seeing the same people around, and that's pretty much how that's the origins of the band.
And just recently, the band went through something of a major lineup change. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, we well, the original singer, she left back in 2017, and then about a month later we got Sian in. She replaced Soph, and then the beginning of this year, our guitarist Dave, he decided to leave the band. Luckily, we were already in touch with the guitarist Dean because we'd played with his band Diamond Head in October last year. So we asked if he wanted to come down and have a jam, and he did, and it just clicked straight away. So we decided to, just see how things go, and got a good feel for it, and it was a good connection. So yeah, we've had two different members in the last 2 years.
How did you find Sian and Dean? Did you know about them through the scene?
Actually, no. I mean, Sian actually came through to us because we'd advertised for a new singer. We'd actually been talking to some people in the scene. We weren't particularly keen on getting someone that we already knew because we felt it could influence the sort of music you're making, and it's hard to expect commitment from someone that you're probably really good friends with already before you got into a band, and we were a little bit worried about that. So we wanted a fresh face, fresh sound. So we actually put an advert out on Facebook for a new singer, and Sian, she came through to us, which was actually through a mutual friend who'd spoken to her about the fact that we were looking for a new singer. So she got in touch with us, she showed us a demo, and straight away it was like, yeah, I mean, she's got great talent. She writes her own vocal lines and lyrics, and that was basically the sort of creativity we were looking for. We didn't want to get someone in to replace the previous singer. We wanted someone to come in and be their own musician and contribute in their own way. And as for Dean, well, we played with his band Diamond Head back in October, and so we just sort of kept in touch. I know that Sian had kept in touch with him since then, and so when we were looking for a guitarist, it was like he was probably the first choice in our minds that we thought of, because there's a lot of people out there, but again, it's being sure that you can have someone who can provide the same commitment that you are, because it's great being in a band, but there's also hard times as well where you have to sacrifice a few things in your personal life, and so you really need to want to do it. And so yeah, we knew that Dean, already an established musician, would be sort of perfect, really. So yeah.
And what about Sian? Had she been in bands in the same genre as you?
Actually, no. She'd the band she was in previously, while they were sort of from our local area, they weren't actually in our sort of scene. So she was completely fresh. We'd never seen her before, or never seen her perform or even really listened to her band before. So I know for a fact that she wanted more out of her previous band. So she saw us as sort of the level she wanted to be at, and sort of she could see that perhaps we'd provide the same commitment that she was looking for, really. So yeah, completely fresh face.
So this band that she was in before, was this Bare Legs?
Yes, it was. Yep.
What kind of music did they make?
It's more sort of like a bit of, I want to say, a bit pop punky, but then it also is a bit more alt rock. So it wasn't quite the sort of thing, perhaps, the sort of music we were making at the time. But I know for a fact that she wanted to get into something that was a little heavier, a little bit more on the doom side of things. So I think that's what sort of drew her to us, really.
I mean, even not coming from a metal or heavy rock background per se, her vocals complement the music quite well. Prior to the new album, which you guys put out this year, you did an EP with her, Amber and Gold. What was the songwriting process like?
Well, before, songwriting process, mainly the lyrics were written by the singer, and then we'd sort of bring in ideas, all of us, if we had an idea for a song, and we'd usually work on it from the ground up, just from an idea. And to be honest, that sort of translated with the new EP. I mean, we'd left Sian to come up with the vocals and the lyric ideas and the melodies. That was all her. This is the sort of thing we wanted. We didn't want to bring a singer in and say, oh no, you need to sing this way, or this is how we sounded before. We wanted her to bring her own unique style and sort of play to her own strengths. So, and actually the EP, we kind of built it up around her vocals, and the lyrical theme was a lot of Norse mythology and things like that. So we tried to make the music fit with that sort of theme, which sort of experimented with before in previous albums, but it felt more organic this time because it was an EP. The sort of pressure was off. It wasn't like we had to write a whole concept album or something. We could just experiment with these lyrical themes and see if we could make the music match, to sort of create a bit of a concept, but nothing that was totally tied into the lyrics. So yeah, it was different to what we'd done previously, but also along the same lines, just purely because Sian is a different musician. She has a different way of writing lyrics and things like that. So yeah, it didn't really upset the apple cart too much, and we found it really easy and we gelled together. So yeah, it felt good.
I feel
as we speak, your fifth album, Violet Hour, is out, which will be the first full-length album that has Sean on it, as well as the first album to have Dean on it. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct, yeah.
So, was Dean involved with the songwriting, or did he just come into the studio?
Well, originally, he said he'd come down, sort of help us write, because I know we had a few ideas ourselves, and we'd actually already started writing with the previous guitarist, but not too much, but just some ideas that we were trying to flesh out. But when he came in, we said to him, feel free to bring anything in you want. We're happy to work. We're happy just to see what happens here, because we were sort of at a point where we didn't really have anything to lose. We'd changed singer, and then we'd changed guitarist, and we thought, well, if this doesn't work with Dean, then we'll have to sort of reassess our options and stuff. So we were quite open to anything that he suggested, and we sort of tried to make him feel like he was a part of the band, which, that's what we wanted, really. We wanted to him to feel comfortable. And we didn't just want him to come in and for us to be like, oh, you need to play this. We didn't see him as a session player or anything like that. So, yeah, I mean, he brought in ideas. He had stuff that he'd been working on at home, and it was really refreshing, because sometimes he'd bring in, almost complete songs for a couple of the tracks. So it was like he had a vision, and we could sort of become part of that vision, and we could sort of make these songs, could sort of bring them to life. So, yeah, he had as a bigger part as any of us in writing. He's definitely influenced the way we worked as musicians as well, using sort of a couple of times different time signatures to what we're used to. And I think with this album as well, not every song is the same tempo, which is sometimes a mistake we've made in the past, which kind of, it can make the albums over time perhaps not sort of feel so sort of progressive when you listen back to them. But I feel like this album has actually got different dynamics, and that was down to Dean's playing style and his talent, really. So, yeah.
And how would you compare this album to your previous albums, besides the tempo changes?
I'd say that we're a lot more liberal this time, whereas before we've always wrote songs that we feel are us and they come from the heart. We've never tried to sound like anybody, or we've never said, oh, it needs to be this, that, to fit in this genre, or this needs to be doom, or this needs to be that. But definitely this time we were a lot more liberal, open to different ideas. And I know that some of the stuff we started writing early on that became the songs on the album were quite drastically different at first, but as time went on and sort of they fleshed out, like me and the drummer had our influence and things like that they start to retain that old sound, but with like a fresh spin. So I feel like with the new album, you can hear the roots of the band, but it's also got that nice new edge with Sean and Dean. So I feel like you've got the influences from all of us, really. So, yeah, while it's different to the previous stuff, I feel like it's a fresh chapter in the band's history.
Where was the album recorded?
It was actually recorded in the Welsh countryside, a place called Foel. I think it's pronounced Foel. It's actually spelled Foel, Foel Studio. It's quite a renowned studio, literally in the middle of nowhere in Wales. So, yeah, it was a really cool setting. And so that really helped us sort of get into the album when we were there recording it, and we totally encapsulated in the music and didn't have to worry about outside influences while we're there.
Why did you choose that place?
Well, actually, we chose because the guy who recorded the album and produced it, Chris Fielding, who's in Conan, we recorded with him before when he used to be at Skyhammer Studio, but unfortunately that studio's no more. But we wanted to work with Chris again, so we said to him, look, wherever you're going, we want to come. So when he said he was going to Foel Studio, we said, yeah, sure. I know that he used to work there a few years ago before he went to Skyhammer. So he was very familiar with the place. So it kind of felt like we were definitely in safe hands because, well, we always are with Chris anyway. We really do trust him as a producer. So it was mainly Chris that made us want to go there.
And so this album will be your first album for Heavy Psych Sounds Records, which I think is based in Italy. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
How did you end up getting signed to Heavy Psych?
At the end of last year, our last album was brought out on Smart Records, and they made the decision that they didn't want to bring out another album of ours. So that's why we released the EP last year ourselves. It was a self-release because we wanted to carry on. We wanted to get things moving, and luckily we were in the position to do that, to be able to bring that out ourselves. And we thought that, as well as it being an EP, to continue writing music and to sort of have something to put out, it also would act as like a demo, as to get Sean's voice out there, to get Sean on some recordings, so it would be clear as to sort of the evolution the band was taking. So yeah, we decided to use that. Obviously we were in touch with a few different labels at the time, but we felt that Heavy Psych, especially with their sort of the sort of theme they've got with their bands, we felt like that the sound we wanted to create would fit with that really well. And especially the hard work they do with like social media and the PR side of things, we were really impressed by. So we were really happy that they took us on, and we feel like we were with a really good label that suits the sound of the album, suits our new image, and it's got some, absolutely legendary bands on the label as well, which was a big drawing point to us. We're all massive fans of Caius from back in the day and things like that. So seeing yourself on a label with the likes of Brant Bjork and Nick Oliveri's, it's something that we hold pretty special. So yeah, it was all those things in one, really. Things just sort of fell into place and worked out, and we were happy with what they wanted from us, and we felt like we could deliver. So yeah, it just seemed like a good partnership.
Yeah, and for a band that describes themselves as heavy psychedelic rock,
yeah, it kind of works. Yeah.
A label that's literally called
Heavy Psych. Yeah.
Speaking of their social media team or their PR team, Claire Bernadette, who does, I believe, all of their PR, most of their PR.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's correct. Yep.
Yeah, has been sending me music for the last, 5-6 years or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice lady, sends me a lot of music. My blog is mostly centered on death and black metal and grindcore and stuff like that. So it's rare that I actually speak to any of the bands that she represents. But this was a nice opportunity to actually feature one of the bands, one of the rare bands I think that kind of fits in with everything else that I cover.
Just don't touch, you might get stuck.
tell me a little bit about Birmingham, because I understand that you guys are based around the Birmingham area, right?
We are, yeah. I mean, actually, I'm the only one that doesn't actually live in inside the city, but incredibly familiar with it. Obviously, I suppose you could sort of say it's a lot like other cities in the UK. I mean, I feel a lot of cities are starting to lose their original identity and become quite similar. But I feel like Birmingham's still got the, especially if you're into metal and things like that, it's still got this sort of hallowed ground feel to it. I mean, I know recently they've recently recognised sort of Black Sabbath's true sort of inspiration on music, and they had the Black Sabbath exhibition and stuff like that, which is really great to see, because I still feel like metal and things still gets a bad press for some reason, even though it's more popular now than probably it ever was. So you do get that sense if you're into music and you know the history of Birmingham, then yeah, it feels like a holy ground. But there's a lot of people out there who aren't aware of the amount of bands that have come out of Birmingham. So I think it'd be great to see more of that sort of thing, and I'd like to see other cities really recognise them, the musical influences that have grown in these different cities and stuff. Like I know Liverpool, they do the Beatles thing, and I'd like to see that in Birmingham really with Sabbath. It would be great. So yeah, but otherwise, this is a great city. It's a progressive city, much like other cities in the UK. I mean, yeah, it's a good place to be. The music scene, there's a good music scene there. There's a good doom scene, good metal scene, alternative, a lot of that. But again, it's down to venues. I mean, you see a lot of these venues closing down, and I know one that we're playing in December, Flapper. That's actually, wow, it sort of keeps getting its license extended because it's eventually going to be knocked down for apartments, which would be a massive shame for the city, because I mean, there's hundreds of bands that have played there, and it's sort of one of those that's on the circuit really. So yeah.
I mean, even beyond Sabbath, Birmingham had a kind of a legendary reputation for the bands it produced throughout the 80s, like Napalm Death and Godflesh and stuff like that. And
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah, and so it seemed like a city that inspired a lot of creativity and innovation in terms of music. But a lot of that, from what I understand, was in the past, Birmingham had a reputation for being kind of a bleak industrial city.
Yeah.
How much of that is still true today?
I think it's hard to say. I think because industry and stuff now, you don't really find it in the centre of cities anymore like you would have done in the past. And while that definitely had an influence on these musicians, you know, I mean, you could look at numerous bands, especially metal, like Judas Priest and Diamond Head from Warsaw, which is just outside Birmingham, really. And so you can see that the bleak influences, and obviously there's a lot of poverty back then, and while that still goes on now, you sort of see in these cities now that sort of gentrification's taken over a little bit, and everything looks a bit more polished than it used to. But I still think that history is still there, and it's still in the consciousness, and especially if you are into metal and things like that, and you know the history, then just being there, you can kind of feel it. Like you can walk around the streets and you can think that you can imagine the influences that were had and things like that. But in terms of if perhaps you're not really aware of the history of Birmingham and places like this, then I don't really think they are bleak cities anymore. Sure, there's areas that are still impoverished and could do with sort of government funding and things like this, but in the actual centre of the cities, it's not like it used to be, I imagine.
Finishing up, tell me what's next for Alunah. What do you guys have next?
Well, we've got a few dates to finish off the rest of the year. We're playing Sophie Fest in Manchester, and we've got a headline gig in London the day after or the day before, I can't remember. It's next month, and then we're heading over to Germany to play 2 of the Heavy Psych Sounds fests, one in Berlin and one in Dresden. And then we're playing a headline in Birmingham, which is always great to do. Loads of family and friends like to come down, and we try to avoid playing too many hometown shows because we've done a lot of that in the past, and you don't want to be sort of seen as taking the easy route out, but it is always great to play. And then next year, we've actually got a tour confirmed with Mondo Generator, who have just been confirmed as being signed to Heavy Psych Sound. So that's going to be great to go on a UK tour with people who are on the same label, and especially with Nick Oliveri and just the influences he's had over us in numerous bands would just be, an honor, really. So yeah, that's the next plans for us.
And am I right in saying that you guys recently did a tour with The Obsessed?
Yes, we did back in June, I think it was. It's all blurring into one now, but yeah, it was that was brilliant. I mean, we've played with one of Weiner's other bands. We played with Spirit Caravan a few years ago.
Oh, no kidding.
We're all, big on the history. Yeah. We played Manchester University with Spirit Caravan, and that was a great night. And such a nice guy, and it was great to sort of hang out with them and stuff, and play a few shows around the UK with them. It was brilliant because we're all massive fans. We're all big on the St. Vitus thing as well. So yeah, that was a great couple of days.
Cool. So the new Alunah album is called Violet Hour. It's out now through Heavy Psych Sounds, which you can get through their website and through the Heavy Psych Sounds Bandcamp page. You guys have a Bandcamp page as well, right?
Yes, we do. Yeah, it's alunah.bandcamp. I think that's correct.
And that's got all your older releases.
Yeah, what we've got left, it's all on there. We've got a couple of bundles, got some T-shirts and merch as well. But I think actually, if you want the new album in the US, I think it's through allthatisheavy.com.
And what's the best way to get in touch with you guys?
Facebook, probably. We're always active on Facebook, and we'll reply as soon as we can. I mean, we all have day jobs, but I mean, we're quite flexible and we'll reply to anybody on there. So yeah, it's probably the best way to get in touch with us, to be honest.
Very cool. Is there anything else you want to say?
I just hope that people love the album. I mean, we're aware of the differences that the music has got from the older albums, and we hope people see that we're just trying to progress and play music that we love, and we just really hope people dig it. And yeah, that's it really. I mean, we've sort of say thank you for the support for people who've stuck with us, even though we've had a few lineup changes and stuff. It's really nice to get good feedback and know that people see that we are just musicians that love playing music, and so yeah.
Thank you so much, Dan.
That's all right. Thank you very much.
Light your candle, let it burn. super nice.